How to stop comparing to others in your 20s? That's a very difficult thing to do. I'm not gonna lie. It's not because I'm 29 that I suddenly know how to do that. Okay, I think that's something we are bound to do through throughout our whole life. Okay, and it's a very natural human tendency, I think. However, it's also very unhealthy and it can cause a lot of emotional pain and mental exhaustion. So, today I want to talk to you a little bit about what I do and what I think works for myself when it comes to not comparing myself to other people. And if you're having a hard time with that, don't be hard on yourself because it is really hard not to compare yourself. That's like we are humans, okay? We understand there's a part of our brain, there's an aspect to learning and growing that relies on comparison, right? Especially when you're in education years and you go to school. You need to compare your work with colleagues and friends, and you need to have a sort of standard for things that are considered good and acceptable. So from a very early age, we are wired to compare. We are wired. The word it's created and built in a way that there's always a standard for things. There's a standard for beauty, there's a standard for quality, there's a standard for work, okay? However, I think that you can try to find your own standard for things. What's good for you? What works for you? What is good for you? Okay? Because success, for example, can shift depending on what you consider as success in your life. So when you live by your own standards, it's easier not to compare because you know where you're going. And we're gonna get to that later. But the first thing I think it's really important is to get off your phone. Honestly, the fact that now we can access everything, we have access to people's lives, we can see things that we didn't used to see back in the day, because I am a millennial. So I remember when things shifted from from not having a computer and a phone in my hand all the time to being able to see what is the routine and the life of a famous person or a rich person, and really thinking, oh my God, are there people really living these lives? And obviously, because I'm not rich, but till this day, I think most people struggle with that because the new generations, especially because they were already born with access to those informations, right? Being able to see people's lives and then instinctively, I don't know, instinctively comparing themselves to these people. And that's painful. That can cause a lot of harm. And I think that the least amount of time you spend on your phone, the better, right? It's more than that. We've been through this conversation before, and I think that it really helps in terms of comparison because I sometimes take like breaks from Instagram, especially because in Instagram I don't only see like celebrities or influencers' lives that I know that are very far from my reality, but I also see friends and family and acquaintances, and it's really easy to feel that gap, between realities. It's really easy to look at someone's life and think, oh, this person's doing so many amazing things. I wish I were doing that. How are they doing that? So I think that's a feeling that everyone has. And it's not like really a jealousy, but it's just like, why not me? Why am I not doing these incredible things? And when you look at your life, you need to be able to recognize the incredible things that you've done, you know, the privileges and happinesses and stuff that the good stuff that you have. So the next point is to acknowledge what's good in your life. Okay? Some people do gratitude journals, some people just, learn to recognize the things that are good. That requires effort. I know that sometimes life just looks like you feel like you're in the worst position possible, right? But you can always dig deeper. You can always search for evidence that your life is good, that you're leading a good life, that you have freedom, or that you're doing things you like, or that you just enjoy being who you are. And being able to acknowledge that, being able to see, okay, I have a family, I have good health, I have a job, I can walk, literally, like I can do basic stuff, I'm smart, I have effort. You know, those things that we sometimes take for granted and we think that are undervalued, they are also very important. And these things can be things that make you stand out as a person, right? For so long, I took for granted the fact that I was a loyal, reliable friend. I always thought that that wasn't important, that everyone should be like that. Until I realized that not everyone can be a loyal, reliable friend. And then I began to notice, okay, that's a trait that I have, that it's super valuable, that I find extremely important for people to have. And I have it. And that puts me forward in a way that I know that I am a good person. I know that I have a good heart and that I do things honestly, right? I'm not trying to take advantage of people. I'm not trying to, make something that might harm someone emotionally or physically. Anyway, I know that I do the best I can to make people feel good and loved around me. So that's something you shouldn't overlook. If you are this kind of person that it's kind, that is helpful, if you have good traits in your personality, that's already something you should be grateful for, because there are some fucking assholes out there, trust me, okay? And you don't want to be one of them. And that goes along, I think, with exercising gratitude, because you also need to be able to recognize your blessings, right? Count your blessings. When you stop looking around and you start to focus on the things that are good in your life, those things tend to grow. The things you have, the relationships you have, the friendships, your life in general, the house you live, okay? The things you get to do in your free time. Some people don't have free time. Some people work 24/7. Some people get home and they're super exhausted and they just can't think about watching a movie or playing a video game. Some people don't even have a computer. So I heard this advice once, and it might sound a little bit silly, but it's true. You need to, maybe sometimes you just need to stop comparing yourself with people that are above you. You need to look down a little bit, because in the grand scheme of life, there will always be someone better than you, but there will always be someone worse. That's a rule. That's how this is how life works, okay? There will always be a better option. When you are in a relationship, when you are in your workspace, when you have a job, when you're doing anything, there will always be someone with potential, or there actually is, better than you. But the other side of it is also true. There will be people who are worse than you. Okay? And so you see, there is no point in trying to compare yourself, because it's inevitable. You're always going to fall short in things, and you're always going to succeed in others. Okay? One thing that really helps is comparing yourself to your old self, yourself today, who you are today. Did you grow up, like, did you improve as a person? Did you get to the places you wanted to be? Did you achieve your goals? Did you work hard on a project? Did you give your best? You know, were you better today than you were yesterday? Because that's the comparison that's healthy, because you can only better yourself. You cannot change people around you. You cannot change the world around you. You can make an impact, of course, but change takes time, and it's very, it's something that people need to do for themselves. So if you are comparing yourself to people, you don't even know what you compare yourself to, honestly, because we don't know people that well enough to compare ourselves to them. We get very little information on the internet about what their life is really like, about how they really feel. So what's the point of comparing to something that you barely know? That could be an illusion, okay? But you know, matter of factly, it's yourself. You know yourself. You know the things you've been through. You know your own trajectory. You know where you're going. So the question you must ask is, was I better today than I was yesterday? Than I was last year, 5 years ago? How did I improve? How did I grow? Am I closer to my goals or am I further away? That's the healthy comparison. So you need to replace, we need to replace, because I sometimes forget about this too. And it's good to remember things, right? So, but we need to replace this negative comparison with other people with the comparison with ourselves, which is the good one. And that's probably more likely to help you in the long run, okay? And that obviously leads us to working on ourselves much more. Because when you're looking at your own life, at your own trajectory, focus is important, guys, for us to achieve things, for us to grow as people. So the more you look at yourself, you won't have time to look around. If you aim at other people, you get other people. If you aim at yourself, you get more of yourself. So it's okay to be obsessed with your own life. It's okay to be obsessed with your own reality. Because if you think about it in the history of humankind, we were not meant to know that much about other people's lives. Okay? We used to live in tribes, small ones. And the only references we had were like 10 to 5 people, 5 to 10 people. Okay? And we were just like hunting, and living in caves and wearing, animal skin. So it's like, what are we doing right now? This is this topic, okay? This idea of comparing myself to a person that lives a completely different reality from mine. It's a bit dystopic. It's fun to be able to experience the world this way, okay? To know about different realities and maybe change your own reality. But if that's what you want, you need to sort of like silence the rest of the world. You need to really just be, okay, this is my life. I'm living this life. This is what I'm going to do with it. This is where I want to go with it. Okay? None of this thing of being like, oh my God, Fulano, that person, it's living a life that it's completely perfect and I'm here and I'm a loser. Don't go into that narrative because that's not what we're supposed to do with our lives, okay? We're supposed to do fully what we have, what was given to her. Because I strongly believe that life is a gift. Life is precious. It's weird and it had just sort of happened for us in this planet Earth. And enjoy it, enjoy this gift. Make the most out of it. This one, your life, your family, your work, your dreams. Okay? Don't be obsessed over other people. Obsess over yourself because you know yourself. You can change yourself, you can control yourself, but you can't change other people. Okay? That's not gonna get you anywhere, honestly. And just know who you are, know what you want, because I think sometimes people are looking around and they see like billionaires and they see superstars and people like who went to like, I don't know, NASA, and you think, okay, that's really cool, but I'm not good at math, you know. I don't want to be an engineer, or yeah, being a doctor is incredible, but if I see blood, I'm gonna pass out. So you see, I mean, it's like some things are incredible, some people achieve incredible things, but they are also like different from you. Who you are, it's what's going to play out. It's a huge part of your success. Knowing who you are, knowing what you like. It took me so long to figure out who I was, what I liked in my early 20s. I tried to be that person that, did incredible things and that was, I wanted to be an engineer, but that's a real story. I wanted to be an engineer. I actually got to engineering school, but I was terrible at math. What was I doing there? And I always have been a creative person, more on the side of like arts and humanities. But I just couldn't accept that because in my head I had this preconception that successful people were from, more logical or maths or physics, the chemistry. Those were the people who really made an impact in the world. But I had very little knowledge of how creative people make an impact in the world. And then I had to like really dig deep into myself to first find out that I was that kind of person, and then search and think like, okay, there's room for people like me in the world. Where are these people? What do they do? What is their life like? What kind of business and what kind of work they do? And then eventually I started to find my people, and then I started to have real examples to look up to, and then it stopped making sense comparing myself to people who were succeeding in technological fields, because I knew I'm not that person. I'm not like that. I don't want to succeed in technological fields. I want to paint a picture. I want to paint a portrait. So knowing who you are also helps you decide and filter out a huge batch of people that have nothing to do with you. I mean, I think athletes are great, but I don't want to be an athlete. So why would I compare myself to an athlete? You see what I mean? And understand that you don't need to be like incredible. Okay? Let's try to be a little bit less. We are human beings, and we are not meant to like overperform and overdeliver and work as machines. Who we are, who you are, it's enough. Being there, sometimes just having another human being in the room is enough. Okay, we think that we need to perform for people, that we need to be incredible and super funny and look hot and have this and that so people would like us. That's not true. Because the people who really like you, they will like you just because you're there. They will like you just because you exist. Okay? And these are the people you want to keep around. If you're thinking about being impressive so you can keep people impressed around you, why would you do that? You're just wasting time and energy on people that see you for a product, see you for something that maybe they can take advantage of. There's really no point. If you want to build real connections in your life, if you want to become a person that has good friendships, good relationships, successful business partnerships and stuff, you need to understand that you don't need much. You just need to be there. Seek out the people that ask nothing from you. Those people really like you. Those people really accept you for who you are. Okay? And yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say today about comparison. There are many ideas that come into this. I'm sure you're going to find a lot on this topic on YouTube, but this is my personal take and what's been working for me so far. I apologize if there's any background noise because there's a lot happening in my house right now. And I appreciate you for watching this video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.